guess it was the second chapter, done from the guard's point of view. Yeah.
That was right, your Half-Life 2.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the one. So that's a Call of Duty one. Oh, okay.
I think so. I'm not 100% sure. I did pull it. I can tell you now. Hold on. It's actually connected to my Surface RT.
Yeah. Imagine that, running Half-Life on your Surface RT. Hey, this is
Rainbow
regarding
Six.
365. We are not Daniel this morning. We're some other guy. Mr. Alistair Putin.
Is it me? Is it my cue to come in and say, good right now?
Good right now. I should probably roll the intro. Just a mo. Well, I reckon I might have to shorten that intro up. Hey, Mr. Dragon, get the smoke out of the way, or whatever it is.
Yes.
Yeah, now it's your turn, Mr. Yama, Velo Love, Half-Life in the background, or whatever. Welcome. Thanks for filling in for
Good evening,
Mr. Glenn.
Yes, apparently he went on some sort of emergency surgery today.
Really? Wow, that's kind of unexpected.
Well, that's the story that I'm going to go with.
Oh, okay. Careful now, don't get yourself in trouble. We know that Dan will have problems with that later. Yeah. Anyway, welcome to the show.
You'll get like
Welcome to the show. I have to keep Alistair under control too, because we do tend to waffle a bit. So yeah, you are in the Office 365 Message Center the week that was, and we are joined with. Oh, look, let me show you something cool. I was playing around with some CSS. Apparently, there's this page that I can drop in and make our live chat show in a different fashion here on OBS. So. Oh, come on, really? No, we do have just a slightly good signal. Oh, we were having this problem before. Anyway, the chat, we've got Graham Walsh from Pixip. There's Chris Smith, not sure where Chris is from. Phil. We've got the other guy, that's our friend, KB Works. Anyway, yeah, so good to have you guys join us. It's really cool. So back to the show. A bunch of announcements this week, and it's good that Alistair is able to fill in for us fill in for Dan, because he does a podcast with Rod the Odd Modlin. What's that podcast about?
Two guys and SharePoint, the only SharePoint show in South Africa where everything is not made up and there are no points.
You guys tend to make a lot of points anyway. I like to tune into a show, and I'm either mowing the lawns or driving somewhere or sitting in a fish and chip shop. But Alice is quite familiar with the Message Center too. He and Rod have some good conversations about that and all sorts of things happening in Azure. So we do have a lot to cover, Al, and I know I'm managing to share my screen so you can see what we're going to go through. And let's change over to have a look-see. What did we deal with last week? And kind of the beginning. So you're a SharePoint guy. We have a feature here for SharePoint Online News, a digest email with a capital E. What's that about?
SharePoint Online News. I actually want to pull it up because, so, you can wrap up your news feed, right? So if you go to the SharePoint home, you get a bunch of news there, and it actually started with communication sites with all the news, and they actually discussed this at Ignite. They were talking about all the news, the new features that were coming with all the latest stuff that they were talking about Ignite. And one of the announcements was to be able to roll up all your news and actually consume it in an email. So not everyone is going to be constantly active inside of SharePoint. Now you can actually grab that news digest with all the news articles rolled up into one via email, which is actually quite cool.
So we have that.
So you don't have to live inside of SharePoint.
Right. So there's that SharePoint home, but apparently we're able to go off to, and this might be a good example, my engineering site. So I've got a couple of pieces of news there, and when it is rolled out, we're going to see a little see all button, and then I can pick and choose which pieces of news I'd like to send out via email. Sound about right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, that's one way to loop people in, and via email, of course, if they're not visiting SharePoint, bring them on back. What have we got here too? I'll make some comments about this one. This one confused me a little. It was new feature, okay? New email options creating groups in Exchange Admin Center. So it starts to talk about, for a while now, we've been able to, as owners of groups, we create the group and we can choose whether or not we allow external email to be received to the group. This is a good feature where if you're, as a group, you're wanting to receive customer feedback or other things that you want to respond to, that they can be sent directly to your shared mailbox in your Outlook group. Cool, that's good. Have you made use of anything like that? Are you using Outlook groups at all, or are you using some other form of groups, Al?
So we do use it extensively in Dimension Data, but we do also use Yammer quite extensively to get those group-wide announcements out. We are starting to embrace Teams. So I think, and we had this on the debate, myself and Lorian were chatting about it, about wanting to move people away from Outlook into more chat-based communication, instead of having this threaded view of emails and all of that. So yes, we do use it, not as extensively as some of our customers, but we also use the whole mail social chat strategy internally. So social, Yammer, chat being Teams, and mail, really that external communication with customers. We try to keep mail down to a minimum inside of Dimension Data globally, actually.
And so that's the piece that this has been making possible for some time, the recognizing that we still use email to connect different organizations who may choose other collaboration platforms, but email is the common thread. And this is something we've been able to do as a group owner. I can tick a box to say, allow people to email directly into my group from external. But apparently it wasn't something that you could configure from the Exchange Admin Center. And that's the place where an admin might create a group on behalf of some people. They couldn't turn that setting on. So now that's a capability. It's as simple as that, as far as I understand. It did take a while for me to understand that one, though. I was sort of thinking about and pondering it for a while. Now, this next one about Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central. Got to say, it's a bit of a hot mess, this one, for an announcement, because it's a major update or major announcement. So we see a card. Okay, so here we go. Here's our card. Major announcement. I think it's that one there. We'll click the card just to get to it again. It applies to a few countries to start with, and this is talking about Business Central. Now I've got a tab open for it here somewhere. This is Business Central coming April 2nd.
So it's really about rolling up,
Go ahead.
April 2nd, launch date April 2nd. So it's really about rolling up what Microsoft did about a year and a half ago. They said, well, D365 is where we're going, and they started to commoditize the various modules. So finances, operations, sales, customer service. So they've built out these 4 modules, and what Business Central actually does, it brings all of those modules together for the customer, for the D365 customer. So now I have a single view into what is actually going on inside of Office 365, inside of D365, and it will also roll up some of the stuff that you've extended into Office 365 via Power Apps Flow, and some Power BI stuff. So like what Microsoft is doing when we move on to the next item, they're doing it across the board. So it's great to actually see, because 2 years ago, Microsoft started building these little bits and pieces of everything everywhere. And what you're starting to see this year is Microsoft saying, well, we've got code in Power Apps, we've got code in Flow, we've got some code in Power BI, we've got code in To Do, we've got code in Planner. All right, let's all light them up. And they bring this layer across all their disparate apps that is like the metadata glue for everything. And now you're starting to really see what I like to term the all-rounder of IT, because Microsoft is starting to glue all these systems together, and it's starting to make so much more sense than it did 2 years ago.
Would you call Dynamics 365 Business Central enterprise or ERP kind of software? Yeah? It's pretty hefty, right? It's got a lot behind it. You can do a lot with it. I mean, it's more than just an accounting package, as they say. It's what have we got up here? Bit of a description. Manage your financials, automate and secure supply chain. Whenever you talk about supply chain, that sounds a bit big. Sell and improve the way you sell smarter to customers. Keep projects on time. It's a big piece of software. It's a big platform, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
So they've taken the old days. You had Great Plains, and you had Exapta, and some other crazy ERP supply chain type stuff. And with Microsoft's drive to moving to the cloud, it just made natural sense that they'd grab this and bring it on as well. And it was the last of the tooling, the big tooling to come across from Microsoft into the cloud, and people were a bit skeptical. It is still the most expensive licensed Microsoft product out there. So it ain't cheap, but neither is SAP or JD Edwards or any of those products out there. So it does make sense that you are now getting end-to-end. Everything that your business does, you can now use the cloud offering from Microsoft to facilitate that.
Right. Well, with all that said, and I've been leading you into something here, I think this is quite an interesting approach. And we've seen it in education before, where, let's put it this way, if a school had not signed up for Office 365, then a student with the domain name that they have could sign up and get Office for free, which just so happened to liven up an Office 365 tenant for the school, whether the school was ready or not. We seem to have something similar here with Business Central, and I saw some interesting commentary about this, where you're able to sign up for a trial license if you are an end user in your Office 365 tenant. Whether your business is ready for that or not, you're livening up that trial. And the kind of the like little footnote there, if you go through to additional information, is here's how you turn it off. So my question is that really the right approach to introduce Dynamics 365 Business Central into your business? Nice to give people a trial, but it's not a little piece of software like Teams or Let's Try To Do. It is ERP software.
Well, the thing is, right, IT doesn't really care that much about things like this, right? Dynamics 365, it's there, whatever. But your financial controller cares about this. Your field service people cares about this. Your sales people care about this. So yes, they can sign up for a trial and they can go back to business or to IT and say, look what I've done here. Exciting times. But I do get what you're saying, where, and coming back to our debate about, so what do you allow end users to actually do? How much
there's a big
space
difference.
do you give them?
There's a big difference between a collaboration space where we can communicate and collaborate, and I'm livening up your ERP system for the whole organization. Whoops. Maybe we're misinterpreting this, but that's what I'm reading there. So interesting approach. I guess we'll see how this plays out in April. Yeah.
Yeah, it's well. Look, it's not. The funny thing is, it's like in the small print. It's not on the top. It's in the
No,
bottom.
no. Yeah. Here's this great
So,
stuff,
yeah, it is.
and here's how you might turn it off.
Yeah, IT pros must be shitting bricks right now.
Well, yeah, they will care. But we'll see how that plays out. I'm interested to see how that's discussed in the community as well. Microsoft Teams and Skype for Business Admin Center together. What do we have currently? We currently have
Big
something
one.
that looks like this.
Big one.
Ta-da! It looks great. It feels like we're still back in SharePoint 2013, managing our portal. Or I should shift our faces over to the other side. There we go. So we've got our dashboard. It does have things like users. This is purely just for Skype for Business. Okay, good. Loading. So a bunch of users. What can we do from an organizational perspective? We can turn on push notifications. We've got a bit there about call routing. And this is only there because of, I guess, E5 license that I've got attached. Control what sort of things we can do in the meet and invite for online meetings. So some of us have jumped in and we've configured some of these things for Skype for Business.
Yeah, the Skype for Business one was usually, it's quite neat. It's all around video conferencing, instant messaging, what you can block, where you can go with it, and also the PSTN stuff. So if you've got VoIP devices on your desk, how you route that trunk calls to the cloud and back in again. So yeah, and also it gives you the functionality to record meetings and all of those things. So yes, the Skype for Business Admin Center has been around since the beginning of time. So that's nothing new, but it still has the classic experience. It doesn't have the new Admin Center experience that we saw when Microsoft launched OneDrive Admin Center. And we're starting to see that flow through to the new SharePoint Admin Center. And the fact that we're getting a Teams Admin Center, that is exciting stuff.
Yeah, and when we say Teams Admin Center, I find this interesting too. The combination there is Skype and Teams Admin Center. It's going to be focused mostly on the telephony side of things, because when we think of Teams, it is more than just telephony. We're not going to go in there and see controls to work with files in your Microsoft team. You'll still see that in your SharePoint Admin Center. But your Teams/Skype Admin Center is going to be all about telephony and controlling, the invites that you sent out and which audio conferencing numbers you might be using, all those sorts of things. So that is coming soon. And here's our docs.com article that talks about it, how to turn it on, different tenant settings, show your org chart so you control whether you want to show that sort of thing off. T-bots proactive help. So it also combines some controls around the bots as well. Is that how you understand it too? Looks to be, those sorts of things. Email integration and various apps that you can turn on and off. So combining all those sorts of things into one admin center. But you'll still be managing things like files within the SharePoint admin center. Okie dokie. What have we got as one of our... I'll go ahead.
No, so when they launched Teams, you were very limited by what you could do in that space. It was stuck in the... Where was it stuck? Was it stuck in the services and add-ons section? That's where they launched it. And you had a couple of sliders there where you could flip a switch, and then it started growing into, okay, so what are you going to use? General tabs, and then it started growing from there. And it's like Phil says, there's quite a lot of settings there when it comes to what you can and cannot do with Teams. It's nice to have its own admin center because it's grown up enough to actually justify. That's the one that I'm talking about, that exact one. So you can see all of that, and your quality is perfect now, Daryl. I don't know who took their foot off the fiber into your house, but
fiber. We have smoke signals down here.
Yeah, something happened, and someone turned up the bandwidth. So so what's nice about it is that well deserved that Teams actually is getting its own admin center, because there's a lot of stuff that you can do. And I think there's also some dashboarding coming around, like you have with Skype, where you got the adoption dashboard and you can see calls and telephony and all of those things.
Yep.
You're getting similar sort of dashboarding that's coming to Teams as well, to the admin center for Teams.
Definitely. Okie dokie, back to our health and message center. There's only a couple more messages left in there to round it out. We have a new hover card for Office 365 groups, and I've already been noticing that. Let's see if I can get that bar out of the way. Ugh, love that. Shit. There. We go into marketing. So not just in Outlook, but in this unified kind of way. I can hover over. Where is it? Hover. Come on, hover. Are you loaded yet? Oh, make me a liar. I saw it there beforehand. New hover card, bringing together a. Maybe I just click on it. There we go. Silly me. It is this card here. So the navigation that never used to be uniform across SharePoint, Outlook, and something else is now being brought together in terms of that hover card. So you can see home, and you can jump to your conversations for that, a calendar, planner, etc. So that's being unified across SharePoint, Outlook, and wherever else you are. Probably not from Teams. That seems to be its own little or massive environment. But
Ecosystem.
Yes. What is it? The hub for teamwork. Yes. Did we say it right, people?
I don't know. We might get knocked over the knuckles for not getting it right. Yeah, but I think it does say the hub for teamwork. Yes.
Now, do you have an interest in LinkedIn integration with Office 365?
Are you missing an announcement?
Do you have something extra?
I do. An updated feature, or we're just doing announcements?
No. And this is something that we do find as Dan and I go through. It's one of the points that we like to make, that this is specific to your tenant. So you might have something extra that I don't have. What do you see on your message center?
So, enhanced anti-spoofing capabilities for Office Advanced Threat Protection.
What do they do?
What? Advanced Threat Protection?
No, the spoofing capabilities.
Okay. So it enhances the current anti-spoofing capabilities. It's based on advanced learning, so AI, also machine learning, and a bit of AI, and it's applied to the top of the standard email authentication stuff that comes through. So your DMARC, your DKIM, it sits on top of that, and it provides better automatic junking of messages if it fails the implicit authentication that comes through. So it's quite neat, because we've been getting a lot of spoofing mails. I mean, so much spam stuff coming through. And with DLP and those sort of things, there's a lot of false positives that comes through. And it's good to see that Microsoft is actually, they've been spending a lot of money in ATP, all around threat management, not only from the Security and Compliance Center, but also from an ATP perspective. I mean, a couple of months ago, they added ATP to SharePoint and OneDrive, and also Teams. And now you've got them enhancing the ATP features from an anti-spoofing perspective, which is neat.
Yeah. Now, I have seen that announcement in our Office 365 Message Center, I guess, a couple of weeks back. So it's a timing thing. Sometimes we have that difference, but it just made me think of something that I was talking about with Jethro, because he's got a big focus on security. Now, he wrote this recent article about multi-factor authentication, but he also was talking to me about the DKIM side of things, where you can liven up your own certificate that will authenticate and say, I truly am Daryl, and I'm sending this email to you. Used to be quite a long and annoying process of trying to get that certificate yourself, verify who you are, grab it from someone like Thought and then install it on your machines. And now it's something that you can liven up in the background with Office 365. So pretty useful way of authenticating who you really are, and so that you're reducing the spoofing side of things.
But yeah, MFA, interesting space. I have not had any joy with it. Sometimes you switch it off and then it gets automatically switched on, but you're doing something else. And I've only had uncomfortable experiences with MFA.
Yeah. So that was one announcement that wasn't in your message center, and I guess we finish on with the LinkedIn integration into Microsoft Apps. Talked a lot about at Microsoft Ignite, a lot of assumptions about what that would look like to begin with. So it is going to come through first of all on your profile card, and what have we got here? It's going to be available in a few countries to begin with, but one of the things that you can do as an admin, of course, is turn it off, turn it on again, and it's also going to be down to the individual user about what sort of information will be shared with the company. It's not like they can go in and see, oh look, Daryl's looking for a new job. Let's expose that on his contact card within the company.
That's exactly what I was saying. I was like, well, you leave one organization and you join the other one, and it automatically updates LinkedIn. You don't have to fill in nothing. You don't have to change jobs. It'll automatically be changed. Yeah. But my takeaway from this little thing is, note what it says there. It says, at this time, the LinkedIn profile experience won't be available for government customers and organizations with Exchange online mailboxes hosted in the following countries. Note that South Africa is there. So they're already prepping the news for when we switch on the data centers. That's exciting stuff, man.
Yeah.
It's the first official sort of like communique from Microsoft, just reaffirming that it's not just all smoke and mirrors, that even the notifications that are coming out are now talking about, it says there, mailbox is hosted in South Africa. I'm excited.
Can you hear his excitement, people?
Oh, that is so cool, because they're already prepping. They're prepping. The news is in there. We are finally... that's best news I've had for a while now.
Yeah, it is actually a big deal, definitely, for South Africa. I know that for sure. Some hosters will be a little worried about that, but that's all good. So yeah, that sort of rounds it out with the LinkedIn announcement and everything that, we did make our way through every announcement. I did want to call out a couple of things that we did just this passing week. We've been trying out a co-working space. We call it the cloud co-working space, where we have been meeting, some of us, to just sort of work together, and we just connect into a Microsoft Teams call, and then we just carry on working. Sometimes we're talking, sometimes we're not. Sometimes we're discussing various things, and other times we mute to jump on a call with someone else, but it feels like we're connected across the planet. So if you're keen on joining us with that, we're making use of a new capability in Teams, which hasn't arrived in the message center yet, to be able to allow anonymous people to join a Microsoft Teams meeting. So do follow Regarding 365 and DM either Regarding 365 or myself, and I'll share that link with you to join in as we work today. Interesting findings there. Al, anything that you noticed in the community before we close out the call?
I spent 2.5. I'm on the wrong timeline for our tenant.
You are?
I am. I was in there for 2.5 hours today. You were sleeping and Seattle was sleeping. There's no one in the middle of the country, of the planet, to hang out with me inside of our co-work space.
So you're recruiting there, aren't you? Saying, hey, if anyone's listening and you're within Europe area or kind of, the way up, you work from home occasionally, like Al does and like some of us do, and you want to be connected, you don't want to just feel isolated, then help him fill up that time zone so that he's not sitting there for a few hours.
Yeah, I jumped in. Um, and I was sitting there. It's usually when I come in, Owen is sitting there, or I think I joined once when Lorian was in. But yeah, it was sad today. I left it on and I looked again. It was 2.5 hours. Nobody pinged me.
Well, we are seeing in the chat there that Paul is keen. Phil might be keen too. So if you want to jump in there now and get that livened up, or maybe give you an hour or so, I guess, and I'll be into work in an hour or so too. So feel free to join us in your evening. But if we can get a little following there, then you might be able to jump in earlier in the day when the other part of the world's asleep. Sounds good. Well, thanks everyone for joining us on the show. Thanks to Al for stepping in and covering Daniel the slacker with his emergency, whatever it was. No, just kidding. Sorry, Dan. Sorry. It's genuine, I'm sure. But we did miss you.
Also known. Yeah. Carry on. I'll close off.
Yeah, definitely. So that was well. You go ahead. Close off.
Well, I'm now officially also known as Dan 2.0, the pretty one. Notice my beard. It's not as cute as his, manicured as his, but I'm definitely the prettier person on the show.
You're the version of Daniel with the hangover, and you've got your sunglasses on.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll catch you again next week. Bye for now.
Cheers.